Welcome to the Motivated Martial Arts Podcast. Your hosts, Jackson White and Gavin Cook, have been friends and Taekwondo training partners for over 40 years. This podcast will bring you a mixture of their life stories, martial arts, and business experiences to motivate you in life and throughout your martial arts journey. Adding in a mixture of inspiring interviews and some of the best traditional martial artists around today. So over to your hosts, the Motivated Martial Artists.
Welcome to the Motivated Martial Artists Podcast with me, Gavin Cook.
And me, Jackson White.
And today we've got Hazel Bracken, feared heavyweight fighter from the TAGB on today. So we're super excited about having you on today, Hazel. Nice to see you.
Hi there, good to meet you.
Thanks for coming on this Sunday lockdown. Not only a couple of weeks left to lockdown, then we're out, then we're free.
Please, I can't wait.
I know.
Yeah,
Back to
fingers
some
crossed,
sort of training.
They've closed my gyms again, I'm not happy.
It's never good. Go on, Jackson, over to you to fire off with the first
Okay,
question.
yeah, go on. I'll fire off with the first question, Hazel. And I think anyone that listens to our show will know by now that it's all about, give us a little bit about your background, your history, where you grew up, and eventually how you got into martial arts.
Yeah, well, born in Middlesbrough, but I moved to Barrow-in-Furness, lived there till I was 7, and then we moved up to Scotland. So I've been in Scotland since I was 7. So
can I just stop you there?
Yep.
So you're not actually Scottish?
So
oh my word! I can't believe that. I thought you was a true Scot. So really, you could be fighting for the England team.
I could be, but the Scots
heritage-wise
took me under the wing. So yeah.
Okay, sorry about. Didn't mean to interrupt you. Carry on.
No, that's fine. So yeah, I've been up in Scotland 27 odd years. Fight for Scotland. Reason being, my instructor, and everybody else that sort of trained me and got me to where I am is Scottish, and the loyalty is there. I did karate when I was younger, so I think I did karate for about 10 years, but hated it. It was non-contact, and I never realised at the time, actually, I just really wanted to hit people. And so I used to moan at my dad for dragging me along. Stopped that when I was about 15, and then found Taekwondo when I was 21.
So you did karate from quite an early age then? From 5 years old were you when you started, that sort of age?
Yeah, I think I was in it for about 10 years. I still only made it to brown belt. I wasn't the best student.
What can you sort of remember about those early days then, those early days of being a child and obviously involved in the martial arts in those early years?
Yeah, I remember being thrown into one competition, not having a clue what I was doing. And I think that was about the only time I competed in karate. And then when we came up to Scotland, it was a non-contact club. So it was all this, let's breathe together. No, you can't attack me until we've got our breathing in sync. And it just didn't do it for me. So
do you feel as though it gave you some sort of grounding though? Those early years in karate gave you some sort of grounding, obviously with your, going on to your Taekwondo.
It did, because when I came to Taekwondo at 21, I had all the basic stances, I had the kicks. So it meant when I did get into it, it was a lot faster progression than perhaps if I hadn't had that basis in karate.
Okay, and so when you started, so presumably you was in Scotland when you started your Taekwondo journey, right?
That's an interesting story. So I was actually in Finland. I was doing a work placement as part of my university degree, and I was over there for a year. And I was at the Christmas party, and I got talking to somebody about how I used to do karate, and he said he did judo, and he's like, you wouldn't like judo, but he's like, I know a great Taekwondo club I can take you to. So fast forward to the January when I got back, he took me along, and I thought he was going to do the class with me, but no, he just shoved me in the door. He's like, there you go. So there's me in Finland learning a Korean martial art while everybody's talking. I couldn't tell if it was Finnish, if it was Korean. It was only when I got back to Scotland, I was like, oh, that's what it is. And then, sorry, I was going to say, I got my yellow belt in Finland, and then I came back to Scotland and joined Scott McMillan's club in Kilmarnock, and he was the Scotland coach at the time. And just from the start, I kind of knew where I wanted to end up, I think.
Okay, cool. So just to let our audience know, what were you doing in Finland then? So you mentioned you're in Finland. Do you speak Finnish?
No, they speak such good English. It's terrible, but yeah, I tried to learn the language, but it's one of the most complicated ones to learn. So
It
no,
is, yeah. Of all the Nordic languages, it's the hardest, isn't it?
yeah.
Without a doubt.
So
What were you doing in Finland then?
I was over there on a work placement for university. So I was studying prostate cancer. So yeah, spent 10 months looking at prostate samples.
Nice, yeah.
Yeah.
I hope you was wearing gloves. I hope you was wearing gloves.
Gloves, yeah, all good.
Yeah, no, you should see Gavin now. He's getting excited talking about prostate. Aren't you, Gavin?
No, I'm just getting worried. I'm getting older.
Yeah, very true, very true. Okay, so you're in Finland. You came back to the UK.
Yeah.
You came back as a yellowbout.
Yeah.
So what was the difference? How did you find the transition coming back from Finland to the UK? I'd like to call it.
Yeah.
Scotland, with the taekwondo.
Yeah, I didn't realise when I was over in Finland, I joined an ITF club, and I never really appreciated the differences until I got back. Mm-hmm. And when I was in Finland, and they're trying to get me to do this sine wave, and I'm just like not getting this. And when I came back, I ended up in the THB. I tried an ITF club in Kilmarnock, didn't get a good vibe. Tried the Scott McMillan's club, loved it from the start. And there was none of this sine wave. It was just straight into what you're doing. Straight lines. Yes, I got this. I can understand this.
Okay, cool. And did you get straight into the competition side, or were you still grading, or did you start competing at an early grade?
Pretty much. I joined in the September, and then my first competition was in the March, an English championship. So that was a green belt. Didn't know what standard I was at, just wanted to use it as a gauge really. Went in, first round I scored 2 points. I got one kick in 2 minutes, and then won the final and just that was it. I got the book for the competition.
Okay, and just talk us through that first competition. You said you got 2 points in.
Yeah.
What were you feeling? Were you confident? Were you nervous? How did you feel?
I'm going to be honest, I didn't realise I was supposed to hit them. So, I'm throwing out everything, nothing's making contact. And at the end of the 2 minutes, I managed to land one kick. And it was a very big learning experience. Oh, you need to actually cover the distance and really, hit them, make contact.
Yeah.
Went on to the final. I think I won the final 6-1. I remember them scoring a point against me and I was like, oh, she can hit me.
Oh, it's funny that if you can kick them, they might be able to hit you back as well.
Yeah, exactly.
It's great though, isn't it? When you win your first competition, I can still remember that feeling of winning your first competition. I mean, it's something that stays with you, isn't it? What was your first? Can you still remember your first competition, Jackie? I know you've been quite a bit younger than me.
Yeah, I do actually. I remember, God, back in, it must have been in the early 80s, where they're probably only about 15 juniors. So they just lined you up in high order. And I had a massive afro, this great big Michael Jackson afro. And I just so happened to fall into the heavyweight division. So they lined you up, 15 kids, and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And they looked at me and they went, yeah, you can go into the heavyweights. And I remember getting this guy who was about 15 years old. And because it was under 16, I think I must have only probably been about 10, if that. And this guy, he must have looked at me and thought, oh, this is going to be great warm-up fight. And he just booted me from one corner of the ring to the next, kicked me into the crowd. Ref pulled me up. I was crying, sniveling, didn't really want to fight, but didn't have the courage to sit down. And eventually, after about a minute, my dad came on and said, listen, mate, to the ref, you're not protecting him. This is dangerous. You're going to get him hurt. And he took me off the fight. Couldn't believe it. I was so happy. So my first experience of a competition wasn't a happy thing at all. And did it put me off? I don't remember it really putting me off, but I remember the next competition, I was worried. And actually, in that competition, I got put into the lightweight side of the 15 kids or 16 kids. And I think I did okay. I think maybe got through to the semi-finals. And then that's where my confidence came. But then as soon as I went or got put back into that heavyweight side, and I'm fighting 15-year-old guys with mustaches at the age of 10, 11. Yeah, I just didn't enjoy it, but it taught me something, you know. And if I'm really honest, I can't really remember. You know, I just, you know, I went to every competition because my dad was there all the time. Win or lose, I didn't really care. I was just there to take part. And it wasn't until I got to about 13, about 12, 13, where I really started taking the competition side seriously. Yeah,
it's great though when you get the bug, though, isn't it? You need, especially as I know you're an instructor as well, Hazel, and you see it with your kids, and when you get your students on there, and all of a sudden they just get the bug and it's like, yes, great,
always done. So yeah, okay. So moving on, I remember seeing you, Hazel, when I first got picked for the national squad. I think was it in Dallas?
2010.
Yeah. Okay. So that was it. That 2020. God, was it? No, what year was it? Sorry.
2010.
Was it 2010, 2011? 2010. Yeah. Okay, so we went over to Dallas. It was my first time in the national squad, and I remember you being out there. I'm thinking, sorry.
I was trying to remember I'm sure it's 2010.
2010, 2011 maybe. And I was shocked to see you out there. I thought, gosh, she's come out as I think you were a blue stripe.
Red stripe,
maybe. Red stripe. And I was like, I was impressed with you because I thought, flipping out, she's up there fighting against all the black belts. Talk us through how you managed to get onto that trip and what it felt to you for representing Scotland on that trip.
Yeah, we did our own fundraising. I was nowhere near the national team at that point. I just knew I had the competition bug, wanted to go out, just kind of clung on to the coattails of some of the guys that were going out. I think it was myself, Darren Duncan, Greg Dunlop, Michael McRobert, the four of us sort of got ourselves over there, just so I could, I wanted to take part, experience an international competition. I'd never been to America, so it was a brilliant experience. I fought colour belt at the time, won the colour belt divisions, but just being in and about the team, I sort of saw what they were doing and learnt a lot from them. Mm-hmm. I just remember trying to just soak everything up.
Yeah, I remember. I think that was Greg Dunlop's first competition as well, wasn't it?
I think
black belt in the adult division. Yeah, he just come up from the junior division. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, it was a great competition. And what about the social side? How did you find that?
Driving about in limos everywhere, it was amazing.
Yeah, I've still got that picture. It was a great trip, wasn't it?
Oh, fantastic.
Really good trip.
It was great. Even though I wasn't a member of the team, they still sort of took me under the wing, let me follow them, cling onto their coattails and join them on the trips and stuff like that. So that was great to be involved with that. Okay.
So talk us through then getting your black belt.
Yeah. So I did every grading possible. 3.5 years, got my black belt in October 2012. I just knew that I wanted to be in the black belt division, so I knew I needed to get that black belt because I won everything at colour belt, and I knew I needed a new I needed the next challenge. Got my black belt the week before the Europeans in Poland. Flew out the weekend after and fought in the European Championships. Won the point stop. That was my first competition at black belt. I was like, yes, I got this. I can go from colour belt to black belt, no problem. First round of continuous, I got Debbie Hill. She'd stepped back into the mix, and out in the first round, I'm like, whoa, okay, right. I've got a bit of a learning experience.
So I was going to ask you that. How did you find? I think I know how you found it. So what did you have to do to improve from that transition from being a colour belt at point stop to moving into the black belt division where it's continuous or light contact sparring?
Yeah.
Talk us through how you had to adapt.
It was more having that fight knowledge, not just going out there and tiring myself out in the first 30 seconds, but having that knowledge, movement in, movement out, movement round. Because I was just
so the ring craft or the mat craft, I suppose.
The ring craft. I was just in there, all guns blazing, and just tiring myself out. I didn't have that knowledge, that experience of how to control a fight.
It's the stamina as well, isn't it? Going from point stop to continuous. If you're not out hitting the road and you've not got that stamina up, you soon realise after after and getting older as well. That's what I found as we started to get older, and you started doing continuous. Well, mate, and then Jackie's looking as if he was saying, "Yeah, you obviously weren't out running enough," which is probably the truth.
you weren't going, to be fair.
Yeah, I was never a runner until I started Taekwondo, and then you quickly realise if you want that stamina for those continuous rounds, you need to be running. You need to get that CV, that heart and lungs.
The thing is, it's the only way really you can get it, isn't it? You can skip for half an hour, 45 minutes, and it's never going to come. You've got to hit the road and actually start getting gassed and start redlining it, haven't you? That's the only way you're going to build that stamina up. And the problem is with stamina is it goes as fast as it comes, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's one of the most annoying things. Fitness, one of the hardest things to gain, but quickest things to lose.
Yeah, well, most definitely. Okay, that's interesting. So, how did you change your training then to be able to start competing in the continuous sparring arena?
I was never a runner before Taekwondo, as I say, so I had to start out easy, sort of short laps, flat laps. Because I was out running with the guys in the Kilmarnock club, and they were off doing all these hill runs, long loops, and I started on this little flat loop, and just went from there. Really, I had good people in the club that I was seeing what they were doing, James Reed, Alan Lusk, and wanting to sort of like follow in their footsteps. So whatever they could do, I wanted to do. So I would go out on my own. And I'd run the big loop that they did, and just so that I could get to the point where I could join them on that run. And yeah, when you eventually get to the point where you're like, I can do what they can do, it's a good feeling.
Yeah. And in terms of, so you mentioned your running, but in terms of other areas of training, strength, stretching, how did you train in those in those areas?
Yeah, I had to get my first gym membership. I do.
You've still got it, but you've not used it yet.
No, I find that the strength aspect, doing the weights, not to build crazy muscle, but to keep strong is an important part of my training. So I do have a good strength and conditioning, just a good circuit that I sort of do, just upper body, lower body, just keep everything nice and strong. As I say, I don't want to be overly muscular, but I need to be strong for the job. So
what sort of stuff are you doing? Are you doing squats and deadlifts and things like that? You going to that sort of level, or do you sort of keep it, keep on the light weights, or do you start to go for the heavy stuff?
No, I'd say fairly lightweight, sort of like 15 kilos in each hand, squats, lunges, Bulgarian split squats, that kind of thing. Even on the arms, 15 kilo on the biceps, that kind of thing. As I say, nothing crazy, but enough to get myself strong. And I find it helps prevent injury as well. I find if I don't keep my body strong, then it's more susceptible to injury. Yeah, we've had this conversation a lot recently on the podcast, obviously, because obviously myself and Jackson going back to sort of in the 80s and even suppose the early 90s, really, the sort of when you're doing continuous Taekwondo training over and over again, there was no such thing as cross training and conditioning back in them days. You just did Taekwondo, and that's what you did. Yeah. You never had a coach saying, "Well, hang on a minute, lads, you've done three sessions of Taekwondo this week. Why don't you do a couple of days of, why don't you have a rest day, and then why don't you have a strength and conditioning day, or lift some weights or do some cross train or something." It was always just repetition, hammering the same muscles. So you're building muscles for Taekwondo, but that's it. But a lot of the muscles you're not using are being weakened, aren't they? That's the problem. Yeah, I find out with all the movement and the contortion in Taekwondo, you've got to keep everything else strong. Keep the knees, keep the ankles, and everything strong. Yeah, no, most definitely. But the thing is that so you've. Sorry, Jackie. Go on, sorry, Gav. No, I was going to say that these days, we're both talking at the same time now. So these days, there's a lot of knowledge out there, isn't there, in terms of the CrossFit and side. I was going to say. Okay, so talk us through because I suppose not many people will know this, but you're actually a doctor.
So just talk us through how you managed to, not a general practitioner, yes, we know that.
Not proper.
But talk us through how you managed. Talk us through how you managed to juggle your studies and also in your martial arts. Certainly, as you were going through your PhD.
Yeah. So when I started Taekwondo, I was still in my undergrad. So as I was sort of coming up through the belts, it was a good stress relief for the studying side of things. When I started my PhD, it might be a lot to balance for some people, but I needed the Taekwondo to help me with my stress relief from the PhD. So I didn't see it as anything that got in the way. I saw it as something that balanced my brain work with my physical activities.
Sure. So a bit of a mental respite.
Yeah. If I didn't get my sparring, then Lord help me.
So just let our audience know what do you have your doctorate in then, Hazel?
I've got a PhD in molecular and cellular biology.
Okay, and for people like Gavin, can you just break that down really easy? What does that mean?
It's looking at
on the screen. He's looking very confused now.
Looking at prostrates, Jackson. Have you not been listening?
When it got to the PhD, I was studying a specific protein and how it was interacting within the cell as it was being produced. So you get into a very sort of specific area of study.
Has that helped you in your training
in
terms of like things like nutrition and things like that?
It goes into a lot of narrower channel, but yeah, just in terms of I can sort of switch on to nutritional programs or look stuff up and have more of an understanding for it from my background. It helps in that. But in terms
Can you just confirm to Gavin then, Hazel, that you can get actually forms of protein from just more than just chicken? Because Gavin thinks you only get protein from chicken and rice, don't you?
Yeah, chicken, chicken, rice, and broccoli. No, I've moved on actually, Jackson. Now I realise you can get a great amount of protein from eating mince pies.
Okay.
I had 3 for breakfast this morning.
I hope they were Marks and Spencer's finest.
It's because the wife left them out last night. First thing I saw when I woke up this morning.
Ever the athlete, Gavin. Ever the athlete.
Them days are gone, mate. Them days are gone.
Oh, okay. So talk us then, Hazel, about your first. So your first year in the ladies heavyweight black belt division. Talk us through that journey. How did it go for you?
Yeah. So I won my first competition. I won that point stop at the Europeans, and I don't think I won for another year, something like that. I had Nikki Line, who was in the division at that point, and I just kept on coming up against her. And I think it took me a while to figure out. Obviously, every time she beat me, I'd go away, I'd work on something else, I'd come back, I'd go away, work on something else, and it was the best learning experience for me. Mm-hmm. We fought in the 2013 World Championships, and she beat me in the final, and she retired after that. So then after that, I started winning in the heavyweight category, but she's came back. I have beaten her. She was it over in Memphis. Yeah, she came back over in Memphis. So I've beaten her since she retired. So
yeah, she's a tough fighter. Trained by the best though, Jackson, wasn't she? Trained by the best.
Yeah, she was. Yeah, she's part of our little Daventry club, is Nicola Line.
I
We've had her on the podcast before, and she's a tough competitor.
Definitely, yeah.
She's got to be able to block her axe kick. Or move out the other way the axe kick quick, you'll be fine.
I mean, Gavin's an expert at it. I've seen him blocking that with your head so many times, Gavin, haven't we?
Yeah,
You've seen Gavin block that with his head so many times.
With my afro.
Yeah.
So
Gavin, another afro.
Yeah, so we know obviously you had Nikki to contend with. Who were some of the heavyweight girls that were your sort of nemesis, I suppose?
After Nikki, I think Katie Franks or Kate Lewis, she stepped in there. She gave me a good couple of years of competition. I think in the last few years, there's been a bit of a mix. No real like steady competition or anything like that. But anybody who steps on the mat against me, I take it seriously, and I want to win. So every fight's a challenge.
Hence your 7 times world champion.
Yeah.
Yeah, good for you.
So what's quite a feat. So what do you hold as your most prestigious title? Which is the one that really sticks out in your mind? Is it your first? Is there a competition that was particularly hard?
I think it was probably more of like a full year. So 2017, that sort of culminated in me winning TAGB International Fighter of the Year. I think I won the Europeans. I got selected for the GB team in Florida, and I won the ITF World Championship. And just everything that went towards being named TAGB International Fighter of the Year, that was my
quite an accolade.
Yeah, one of my proudest.
I never even got a sniff at that. never ever got anywhere near it. But I always respected the people that did. So yeah, well done. So we spoke about some of your hardest fights. What would you say some of your most disappointing moments have been? Where you thought, oh God, it's not working for me. Is it right for me? Do I need to go on? Do I want to go on? Just talk us through some of those disappointments.
2016, 2 weeks before the World Championships, I broke my foot. That was one of the most disappointing moments of my life. I remember crying in the hospital when they told me, "No, it's broken. You're gonna have to wear a boot." But everybody was telling me, "That's it. You're out the World Championship." 2 people told me, "No, you can still fight this." It was my coach, Scott McMillan, and THB physio, Sarah Scott. Between the 2 of them, they're like, "No, we can do this." Because at that point, I hadn't won a TI, Taekwondo International World title, and I put everything into this preparation. And
so how did you break it? Was it a kick in an elbow or overuse injury?
Kicking an elbow, yeah. I did it. Probably did the initial break 3 weeks before the championship, and then a week later, I tried to rest it, and I was back at squads, and I threw a side kick. And just as I pushed this person back, it went, and I felt it. So those 2 weeks were the hardest 2 weeks of my life, building up to that, and then turning up in Birmingham, trying not to show anybody I was limping. Sneaking into Sarah's room to get bandaged up before the England squad turned up. She got me on the mat, and I managed to win the point stop title. I beat Debbie Hill in the final. I went into the continuous, and I just had no faith in my foot. I couldn't. My strength is my side kick, pushing people back with it.
So which foot did you break? Your left or right?
It was my left foot.
And is that are you predominantly left-sided?
That's my kicking foot, yeah.
Right, okay.
So I could kick with my left foot, so it meant I could hop in with my right foot, but then I didn't have any faith to push in the kick. Yeah. Or I stand still on my left foot and I can fling my right foot about, but I'm waiting for people to step onto it. And I remember I made it through the semi-final, and I was in the final against Emily Jane, and she knew about that I'd broken my foot, whereas a girl in the semi-final didn't. And I remember at one point turning around to my coach, Scott McMillan, and saying, "I've got nothing else. I've got no more ideas. I can't win this because she knows my weakness and I can't get round it." And hats off to her, credit to her. Did she hit it? No, she didn't, and she said that since.
Oh, what a nice competitor! I would have whacked it. I would have just.
I know, yeah.
Hammer fisted it down.
Tried to bite it. She tried to bite it.
I would have bit it. I would have bit it if I knew it was injured.
She knew I couldn't move, so she just moved around it and scored the points. And yeah, I remember going down on one knee at one point, and Scott was like, "What? Do you want me to throw in the towel?" I'm like, "No, I can fight on. I can't win, because I knew I wasn't winning."
Okay. That must have been quite difficult.
It's not so much a fear of getting injured again, is it? It's just having to try and change your style, isn't it?
Well,
at last minute.
I don't know. There was the fear of making it worse. Everybody was saying if you go in and do that, there's a possibility you'll make it worse. So there was always that in the back of my head, which was why I had just no faith in it. I remember coming off that fight and I was like, right, go and get my boot. I'll tell everybody I've broken it now. I'll put that boot back on. And spend the rest of the championships hobbling about in my boot, which I should have been wearing for the last 2 weeks.
that naughty Sarah Scott. I'll have words with her next time we see her.
Oh God, that must have been quite difficult. So I can only imagine the answer to the next question. How long did it take for your foot to heal, and then what was the next competition you got back into?
From that point, fortunately, I hadn't made it any worse. So it was only 3 weeks until I could get back into trainers, and from that point and take the boot off. But obviously, I then had to rehab to get it stronger and to get my confidence back in it. So I think I was straight back into it at the Scottish in the September. I wasn't, I didn't have to miss any competitions. It was just such unfortunate time in that it was the World Championships that was affected, and just going back to our World Championships, I managed to get through my individuals, but then I had to obviously say to the team, look, sorry, there's nothing I can do, and then I had to sit by and just cheer from the sidelines, which when you're so involved in the international team, the Scotland team means everything to me. Then having to sit back and just cheer them from the sidelines was just so hard.
It's very hard, isn't it? I remember in Dallas, I'd had a really good year the year before, and then for some reason I remember actually I kicked Warren Weiss. I went to push him and I tore a keyhole tear, a bucket tear in my cartilage, and it was fine. It was a bit swollen. And I rested it for about a week. Went back to squad, trained no problem. Went out running the next week, and it just flared up, and it just kept doing this. I was spending a ton on physio, and it was touch and go whether I was going to go out to Dallas, and I was devastated because I knew I hadn't trained as hard as I wanted to, and it flared up out there. I iced it again. It's just so frustrating, isn't it, when you have an injury of that magnitude? It just stop you doing the one thing that you absolutely love and live for, I suppose.
Yeah, yeah.
It's devastating.
You should have seen Sarah Scott. She would have seen you, right?
Oh, I did actually.
Did you?
I was over at Sarah's every other day. Yeah, it was a nightmare. And then do you know what? I came back from Dallas, and I had a keyhole surgery on it just to cut that little tear. And I was back fighting after 5 weeks.
Yeah.
I wish I'd have just taken that operation earlier.
Yeah.
Keyhole surgery, so I was up walking the same day, and then 5 weeks later I was back competing. So yeah, but it's just so frustrating knowing that I couldn't give it everything in training. I was always worried it would go again, and I didn't know what was making it go. So yeah, really frustrating.
Yeah.
But hey, you live and learn. So now if I have an injury, I'd go straight into the knife straight away to get it sorted. Wouldn't mess around now.
So so Hazel, obviously squad training. Obviously, I know you would have travelled down to Loughborough. Was it where obviously done the squad training there with Grandmaster Walton and Grandmaster Oliver. I know in Scotland they do their own squad training. What differences? I mean, I've never been to Scotland and done squad training up there. Obviously, I've done a lot of squad training with Grandmaster Walton and Grandmaster Oliver. What's the difference in their training regime? Because certainly over the last sort of 7, 8, 10 years, there's been a lot of good fighters come out of the Scottish camp.
Yeah.
I'm interested to know what the secret is, I suppose.
Iron Brew.
Iron Brew, yeah. When you aspire at the Scotland squads, you're all out. You sort of, the mindset is, train as you want to fight. So if you want to use something in a competition, you're going to have to train it. And so we'll go all out, rounds of sparring. And I've left many a squad session with a black eye, a busted nose, whatever, like contact, honest. But you learn from it. You learn very quickly. All right, won't do that again. I'm not saying, the GB squads are immense. Like that for us, that's a 6-hour drive down, but it's well worth the 6 hours because that's when you're in there, that's 3 hours of constant hard work.
It's pain, isn't it? Pain.
Yeah.
And to the point where you want to be sick at the end of it, which is, you've worked hard when you're about to puke in the bush outside when you go outside.
Yeah. None of us want the short straw of who's driving, because you know that person's got to drive back up the road afterwards, and it's just awful.
I used to feel sorry for you guys, because I only live probably 30 minutes maximum from Loughborough, and I'll be driving home thinking, I'm falling asleep, and I get home and I'll sit on the couch with a glass of water and fall asleep for about 2 hours. And I'm thinking of the likes of yourself, Gordon Fern, who lives the other end of England, you guys getting back on a 6-hour journey. Just, it's a momentous effort. Hats off to you, really.
Yeah.
I know it's not easy, is it? It's not easy at all.
Yeah, it's funny that a lot of people be missing them, though, in the moment now with the lockdown. So you as a fighter then, Hazel, obviously, so, with lockdown and COVID and everything else, it's really hit people like yourself whose prime narrative in Taekwondo and in martial arts is to spar. I'm guessing, there's not been a lot of talk about patterns on this podcast, so I'm not even going to go into that. Or set sparring or 3-step sparring.
Have you ever seen Hazel do a pattern? I've seen one or two.
So what have you been doing to sort of keep up your training, I suppose, and try and fill that time?
Yeah, it's very different when sparring's your thing. You want to hit people, and then the next thing you know, you're prancing about your living room, throwing kicks to air. But you just got to make do with the best you can. So I've been doing the Zoom sessions. I've been doing classes outdoors when I can. I'm fortunate that my fiance also does Taekwondo. He's only a blue stripe, but I'm putting the sparring stuff on him.
Do you spar with him?
Excellent.
I bet that's not fun for him, is it?
No, he's only a lightweight.
No, he can match me for the height. So I'm fortunate in the fact that we're in a bubble. I can at least get occasional sparring, but you've got to modify your training and just accept that everybody else is in the same boat. So we get a lot of hard work. Just working on, I've still got areas of weakness, things I want to fix, get better at. Spend the time doing that.
Do you not think one of the interesting things is going to be when we finally get out of this mess, and then we go back to the first competition, the nationals? Who are the winners going to be? Because it's going to be there's going to be the little slim guy that was slim 6 years ago, who's now, 6 months ago, who's now a little tubby on the side, but he's been a bit like me, drinking wine, eating mince pies for breakfast. It's going to be interesting, though, isn't it? Because if you haven't been training properly for a year, because you lose your timing, don't you? If you're not sparring, that timing goes.
Yeah, it's going to go back to my first competition. I'm going to win it 2-0 because I'm going to score one kick that full 2 minutes.
I doubt that. I think the timing goes, but you have that ability, you have that knowledge now, don't you? Once you're a fighter, you're always a fighter. And I've experienced recently, but I retired in 2016. I didn't put my dobok on for a competition until 2019. That was just in the tag teams, and it shocked me actually how easy. I won't say how easy it was. We won it a few times.
But they were against red belts, though, Jackson.
Well, they have to be against somebody, Gavin.
No, yellow belts. Yellow belts.
No, they weren't yellow belts. But you don't lose it. You still remember it. It's just, I think the thing that goes is that fighting fitness.
Yeah.
That's the bit that goes, because it's like playing a football game, isn't it? You can train as much as you want, but actually until you play a match, you don't get match fit. And that's what I think a lot of the competitors will miss, that match fitness, because you can get that from squad training. And, without a doubt, when we're there, you're going hell for leather. It's, in fact, most of the time, it's harder than the competition, I always found. But so you can get that match fitness through squad training, but because you haven't had the squad training, you haven't had the competition bit, you're not going to have that match fitness. So it's going to be hard work, isn't it? I think.
That's it. When we do get some sparring, you find you're like 2 minutes. All right, I'm not used to this. So
hopping and chugging away.
Yeah. I think once lockdown's over, just get back, just get the rounds of sparring, and as you say, just get that match fitness back. Timing and distance has gone a bit because I'm throwing kicks. I'm like, I should have hit. Why is that missing now?
thing is, there's going to be a lot of opportunities for maybe some of the undercards, if you like, really, to step up, because there probably will be a lot of people that have decided to take early retirement as well over this period.
Well, I hope so. I hope, there's other people that have gone into lockdown like, right, I'm going to take this opportunity to come back and be a bit of a dark horse come the first competition back. Because, there's no point wasting these months. We've got to make the best of them as we can. And, hopefully they'll come back and, we'll be stronger for it.
Yeah. So we're
going to...
Sorry,
I was going
to say, what's your plans?
We're going to wrap...
Hazel.
Sorry, Gav. Sorry.
I was going to ask Hazel what her plans for the club is. I know obviously you're an instructor. I know you've had to sort of maybe move part-time back to your other profession, obviously, during this time. Are you planning on trying to rebuild the clubs back up when we get back to normal, or what's your plans?
Yeah, Glasgow's a struggle at the moment. Glasgow letting just will not, let the halls out for love nor money, and struggling to get any other sort of halls. So at the moment, it's all online. I'd hope that come, once this is all back to normal, we can get things back up and running. But for the time being, it's online. So we'll see where it goes from there.
Yeah, that's what you can do.
Yeah.
All right. Can I go now, Gavin?
Yeah. Sorry, Jackson. Off you go, mate.
Thank you. So Hazel, we're almost out of time, so we're going to wrap up. So I'm going to finish off with the penultimate question, and then Gav will give you the last one. So, as we're the motivated martial artists, what motivates you to get up in the morning and train and do what you're doing?
Hunger, desire. When I first was coming up through the colour belts, I could see what the black belts were doing, and I was like, I want to do that. When I got to the black belt division, it was, Nikki Lyons, all right, I want to beat her. I did that. And now it's like, right, everybody else is on my coattails, right? I've got to stay where I am, it's that fear of letting things go. So now I just keep working hard and keep maintaining what I've built, really.
Okay, cool. Go on then, Gav.
Yeah, so another question we always ask our guests is, what advice would you give to a younger you? Start
earlier. None of this non-contact karate. Get in there, get punching. I wish I'd realised what was missing in the karate, and I wish I'd found the taekwondo earlier. Don't get me wrong, when I was 21 and I started taekwondo, I just hit the ground running and went with it. But I do wish I could be one of these youngsters that was doing it from a young age and see where else I could have taken it, because honestly, I've had such brilliant experiences in the places I've visited through the competitions and being a part of the team that I just want more. I wish I could have had more.
I suppose the thing is now, though, on that one is that, like I said, when you go, if you think about like the kids of today, you can go onto Google and you can look at Google reviews, and you can pinpoint or you can go onto Google and type in what's the best martial art for someone my height, my weight to do, and all of a sudden you've got all these recommendations, haven't you? So where I suppose sort of going back 20 years ago, you didn't have that. You just used to go to the nearest one that was in your local village hall or whatever. That was the choice you had, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I honestly never realised at the time that was what I was missing. But as soon as I found the taekwondo and I found the sparring, I was like, this is it.
Well, it sounds like you've definitely smashed some people up over the last 10 years, Hazel. Yeah, loved it. Hopefully they'll all be listening to this podcast going, yeah, well, that was her. She was the one that did this to me.
I wiped her foot on my face.
Brilliant.
So just out of interest then, so I know it's always rude to ask a lady her age, but I'm quite keen to know how much more longevity do you think you have? And given that you're actually a fighter, I don't think it's inappropriate. So don't mind me asking, how old are you, and how much longer do you anticipate that you'll continue competing?
Yeah, I'm 33 just now. I've got a few things.
Spring chicken.
Got a few things coming up. I'm getting married next year, that sort of thing. Well, fingers crossed.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But for as long as I can, I'll be there. I'll be on the mats. I'll be training my heart out, because I need to train. It's my stress relief. It's what gets me through. So, yeah, that desire and that hunger will always be there. So, for as long as I can, really.
Okay, cool. Hazel, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on this evening with us and chatting to you.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Yeah, thank you,
It's
Hazel.
been a great insight.
And thanks very much, and all the best for the future.
Yeah, brilliant, thank you.
And hopefully we'll see you, I think that, fingers crossed, next competition in March, eh?
Oh, please.
Vaccine permitting.
Yeah.
I know, please. I've got both fingers and all my toes crossed.
Yeah, can't wait to get back to it. I need to see you guys in person again. It's been too long.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's been difficult not being able to see the TAGB family, isn't it?
Yeah,
Get to a competition, just chat, say hello. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
been very, very difficult this year.
Definitely missing it. Yeah, that camaraderie. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Have
Hazel.
a great evening, and we'll speak to you soon.
Brilliant. Thank you. I'll catch up with you soon.
Cheers.
Okay.
Bye.
Cheers.
I hope you all enjoyed this week's episode of the Motivated Martial Artist podcast. Don't forget to check out our Facebook page and our Facebook group, the Motivated Martial Artist podcast.
And don't forget also the Motivated Martial Artist Instagram page.
So head along for some extra content, interviews, and much more.
So until next week, it's bye from Jackson
And Gavin?
the Motivated Martial Artists.